not most pro-lifers, but that's a very, very fringe view, even amongst pro-life. But he doesn't know. He's just so they ask him about Israel.
That's why they loved it, though, because he thought he was that fringe group that could even get the moderates what they want. And trust me, the moderates will go. Like, the moderates honestly want what the fringe want, but they're willing to meet in the middle. Like me, I'm a moderate on abortion. Like, let's be real. I'm not okay with it. I would love for there to be no abortion, but I'm reasonable. If I was to sit down with the Democratic Party, I'm like, all right, guys. All right, so like 2 months, like what, 8 weeks? That should be about enough time for a girl to figure her ish out. If not, good luck. I think that's fair, right? Right. So yeah, you can meet me in the middle. Some people are just like, no, we shouldn't do it whatsoever at all. Sin against God, yada, yada, yada. And those are some really good arguments. I'm not going to lie, especially if you're religious. But to be fair, it'd be best to meet these guys in the middle.
Palestine. And in his typical Trump way, he's just going on instinct and saying what he thinks. So he just goes, I'd say we should be neutral. We should be neutral and we should stay out of it. We should be friends with that. But saying you should be neutral to the Israel lobby is like saying we should eat Jewish babies. Like, there's literally you saying we should be Adolf Hitler if you say we should be neutral in Israel Palestine. And then he got a lot of heat for it. And then you remember he went to AIPAC.
Yeah.
And he gave this speech. This is when I started taking him very seriously politically, because I was like, it's one thing to be able to move a lot of people in Alabama, or it's one thing to be able to talk to red state America, working class people. It is a different thing to be able to get a standing ovation from the Israel lobby. You know, that's like, that means a lot in Washington, D.C. And so he goes there, and how does he win them over? Well, he's Donald Trump. So first he goes, Obama makes very stupid deals. I believe in smart deals. And the worst deal ever made was the JCPOA, the Iran deal. I don't even know if he knew JCPOA, but he said the Iran deal, and they're standing ovation for that. So anyway, just reminding people that originally, at least openly, Donald Trump's instinct was to be neutral and not be involved. That got the Israel lobby to attack him, and to get them off his back, he promised them he would tear up the JCPOA,
right?
Which is kind of crazy. And here we find ourselves all these years later in the war that was prevented by that agreement.
Well, you're right. And those are two things that I bring up on my show that people forget, because people say like, oh, well, Trump has always been pro-Israel. That's always kind of been part of the deal. And it's like, no, it really wasn't. I mean, in 2015, early 2016, you're right. I remember that interview well. And he said, we're going to be.
That was Andrew Wilson's argument. Well, everybody know Trump was a Zionist. You know, you get ripped up the JCPOA. I mean, yeah, but that doesn't automatically mean he's a Zionist. He could have just did that to get these guys off his back, but he didn't just go out into full-on conflict with Iran. So, nah, that doesn't necessarily say that, but I could see the argument for it.
Neutral, we're going to treat both sides fairly. And he went, I don't know if it was AIPAC or RJC, but he, like you said, he said that thing about Rubio, I think in December 15, where he said, oh, well, he's going to take your money. He's your puppet. I'm not going to take your money. And I even said this in 24. And at the time, I know a lot of people didn't take it seriously because it didn't sound like real or like concrete. I was saying like, well, he's going to bring us to war in Iran. He's not going to do the deportations. But I also said that the prospect is different, like, or rather the proposition of Trumpism is different, because like you said, and this is the most important thing, when you go back to 16, Trump said, I'm rich, I'm a billionaire, I'll self-fund my campaign. That is why I can fix America. Yep. Like there's a very clear logical chain where he says, the system is broken. The politicians are all talk, no action. They never deliver real victories. Why? Because they are controlled by the donors. I alone can fix it because I'm so rich. I'll self-fund my campaign. I will run the government like a business. I'll hire and fire at will. And that's why I can bypass all of the gridlock, all these problems that have prevented real change. And that was another big aspect of it, as he would say, it's not just going to be these like political wins. He said, no, we're going to deliver a real win. He said, I'm literally going to take this country and make it great again. And what you're getting at 16 is totally different than from 24, where they're like, you go to these people and say, well, he said staple green cards to diplomas. He said we're going to bomb Iran, basically. He said there's really no plan to do mass deportations. And people would say, you know, once you get past all that golden age stuff, they say, yeah, well, it's going to be better than a Democrat. And you go, okay, but like lesser two evils better than a Democrat? Wasn't the whole point that he was going to like break the system? I'll never forget that debate. I don't know if it was the South Carolina debate or maybe the one before that, but there's that viral clip where he goes, we needed tickets for the television audience. You can't get them. You want to know who's in the audience? Donors, special interest. And people, if you watch that clip now, everyone in the comments says, oh, now I get why he got elected. Like, now I get, I'm left wing, I'm Democrat. Now I see it. And it's like, yeah, that's what created the cult of personality. That's what created diehard Trump supporters. And it's like, Tucker points this out. It's like Animal Farm. It's like the revolution has betrayed itself. Now he's just like the others.
Like, yeah, Trump's first term or during this campaigning, bro would say like the realest stuff out of nowhere. And you just sit there and be like, damn, my man's right. And he's touching on stuff that no politician would dare say. And that will low-key attracted a lot of people to Trump. Now, like I said, I was still low-key a bit cautious about him in his first term, but he won me over in the second one, I'll admit.
And that's where you say, this is now dead. This wave has crested. It's not dynamic anymore. Now we need to look for the next wave because this will only disappoint us in the future. So that's a very good point about the self-funding. And you're right. Almost nobody talks about it.
Yeah, it just kind of went away. But look, I mean, I think that was also, I guess, kind of part of the disconnect of where me and you are on this versus where like Crowder is on this, where it's like, it's very easy, especially for guys like us. It's very easy to have your own narcissism, fuck with you, because it's just the world. There's a camera in front of us. We're on. You get a lot of people watching your thing, and you can feel like you're an important person. But like at the end of the day, the truth is that me and you aren't really going to determine anything that happens here. You'd be like, oh, you guys cost us the midterm. No, the Trump administration cost us the midterm. There's nothing I could say that would change the reality on the ground. Like this is what it is. But I think in some way, people also don't understand how uniquely positioned Donald Trump was. Like there are so many factors, so many stars that aligned for Donald Trump to do what he did in 2016 and in 2024. Like he was the most famous guy in the world. He was the rich guy. He was so brash. He was so camera ready. Like there's just like all these things that come together. Like Republicans have won 2 popular votes.
I mean, and he was extremely funny. Like, bro, Trump was way funnier first term, honestly. When it came to his speaking engagements, bro, was so funny.
In the 21st century. Okay, like to go back to the third, you have to go back to like when I was 15 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like It's really bad. George W. Bush, they won in 2004, which was, if you can, because I'm a little bit older than you, like 2004 was 5 years after the 1990s. Okay, it was a different country than we are today. And we were in a war. And even though the war wasn't going good, it was like, don't go against the president in the middle of a war was still kind of a big thing. Since then, no Republicans have won the popular vote. Donald Trump got it this last time. People do not understand the gap between what Donald Trump has versus what Marco Rubio has, what J.D. Vance has.
Right.
It was already a huge ask for them to carry this coalition forward. Like, it's over, dude. It has nothing to do with how me or you feel. That's it. None of these guys can win. This administration has an approval rating about where George W. Bush's was after 2 disastrous wars and an economic collapse.
Honestly, it's even lower than that, sadly.
Matter of me or you. It's like, no, listen, dude, the only option here is that another outsider emerges, which is possible. No one would have picked Donald Trump at this point. We'd be in 2014. No one would have picked Donald Trump was going to be president in 2016. So like there are maybe someone will emerge and Crowder kept saying to you, yeah, but that comes with risks. It's like, yeah, right. Nothing doesn't come with risks. Your plan comes with the risk of your plan is that either Gavin Newsom or AOC will be president. You want to just say, put the blinders on, forget that we just launched a war for a foreign country, which is the most hated country in the world, which is a country that the American people have rejected, do not want this. You want to blame the critics of it for the loss? Okay. Let's if we had time machines, let's run a different experiment where me and you both get on board. We stay on board with the administration. We'll just go down in flames anyway. It's not going to change anything.
Well, and I would say he kept saying,
no, it is crazy. They're acting like our support was really about to do something. Like, oh no, Seth, if you only support the war, it'll go better. No, bro. Even if I supported the war, we'd still be getting the same results we are now. Like, that's not how it works, my man. Like, well, the more people who support the war, the better it will go for Donald Trump. Okay. Okay, bro. Apparently you think this is like a spirit bomb. We could hold all our energy together and just throw it at Iran, but this ain't Dragon Ball Z, so it don't work like that.
If we burn it all down, go for the Democrats, etc. He said, there's this big risk then that the Democrats are going to win. And I said, well, let's think about possibilities. So if we have someone from the administration run like Vance or Rubio, let's think about what Vance and Rubio would do that Trump would not. If we can agree that Trump is unsatisfactory, he's betrayed many of the promises, and at the minimum, like you even said earlier, to the extent that he's doing anything, he's not solving it.
Yeah.
Deporting 500,000 people, let's say that's the number. Is that a drop in the bucket even? If Biden imported 10 million and you deport 1 million, you're not even like net negative from where Biden was, let alone where we were before Biden was elected. So he didn't solve it. But like you said, Trump has this cult of personality. He uniquely wields the people as like sort of a distinct political force. Rubio and Vance, they don't have that cult of personality. They don't have control.
Now you're right, Jet, but apparently we were just supposed to put our hands into the air, give our power to the Iran war, and Trump was just going to hurl a spirit bomb at Iran, and all of their uranium would just evaporate, and then so would the IRGC, and then the Iranian people would be free. That's how it's supposed to work, bro. We was all just supposed to put our collective energy into the air.
All over the party. They don't have that popular support. And what's more, they don't have that like independent mind. Like Trump created this political revolution. He is an outsider. He does actually even have, you could argue, his own ideology, this like pro-protection, anti-war, nativist sort of thing. So are Vance and Rubio going to be better than Trump? And if so, how? How are they going to stand up to the Israel lobby? How are they going to be more immigration restrictionist? I don't think anyone would really believe that. And so you either get a continuation of the, if it's even possible they win because they're attached to this administration, you either get a continuation of this, which we all recognize is not a solution for anything. The best people say is it's worse than, or rather it's better than total destruction under Democrats. Or they say something like, well, it's buying us time. It's letting us have some sort of like salutary neglect, like the Democrats aren't killing us with censorship and debanking. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is it's a Democrat. And so you say, that's a scenario where there's no winning option. The victory is not a possibility on your timeline. So what you're doing is you're playing not to lose. You're hoping that we don't get the worst thing. We don't get the worst defeat condition, but you're not even really concerned about how we win. How do we get mass deportations? How do we get the rest of it? At least if you say we're going to punish Republicans, like this administration needs to fail, everyone in it needs to burn down and be weakened by it, at least then there's a possibility in 28 that the Trump administration alum are so unpopular, even in a primary, that somebody else could actually emerge and then run. Because the biggest concern is that, look,
guys, make sure to follow me on Kick as well, because I do be posting my Kick link in the chat, or my Kick URL in the chat, or you can just look me up on Kick at S.E.T Media Info 8. Make sure the guys to follow me at Kick to avoid the censorship that YouTube places me under every about 2 weeks or so. It is what it is.
We all know this. The party is consolidating around Vance or Rubio. The money, the actual party apparatus. And what they're going to try to do is make it so there isn't a competition. They're going to make it so that there's one clear guy, probably the Trump backs, someone from the admin like Vance or Rubio. That person's going to get 70% of the vote. There's going to be a bunch of also-rans, and they're just going to jam that guy through so he can campaign really without a primary fight throughout 27 and 28, and then, lock it up for the next 4 years. And so the biggest threat actually is that candidate will be too strong and suffocate any possible challenger, any dark horse, an outsider. And by the way, if we get an outsider, that might be your victory. That might be your victory condition, where it is someone who was from that Trump coalition, saw where it went wrong, wants to fulfill the promises of it without kind of rejecting the fundamental premise. Someone like that can emerge. And then, if that person wins, then maybe that person can actually deliver the victory. But that's why I say, you know, people are always saying like, well, who's that person going to be? Well, you don't know if that's even going to happen. It's like, we have to create the possibility that we can win. Otherwise, we're accepting defeat. Like you said earlier, either we're going 90 miles per hour or 85 miles per hour off the cliff.
To be honest, I'm not even sure it's 85. Like
Right,
this might be just as fast, dude. It's just a different thing. I mean, it's like in the same sense, like why do I hate the Democrats? It's like, I don't know, because like they I don't know, they're fiscally insane. They opened our borders. This is chaos and destruction. They push this trans insanity on little kids. This is evil, and this is abortion, is murder, this is death. It's like, this is all destruction and death, and it's just, this is all horrible. I'm not actually,
it's like, bro, it was just a down spiral of society. It's like, that's what the Democrats are literally pushing, like high crime, high abortion rates, like high drug use. You know, it's all good. It's all good, guys. Just look at the look at the green numbers on the economic board. Or, oh no, look what we're doing for the trans community. Look what we did for Black children. Yeah, just look at that while the whole entire country is failing and falling apart. Yeah, that was the sad reality of the Dems. It was, look at this shiny stuff over here while the entire country is falling apart.
Sure which one is worse, to be honest. They're all very bad. And you know, I guess maybe one of the things that's kind of frustrating about even having these debates is that it's nuanced and it's complex and it's broad. And like, for example, okay, so Pat Buchanan, who is really a hero of mine, I'd imagine like someone you would really admire as well. Brilliant.
Now I feel you on that, plug. I do, but it's just weird though. Like the weird thing about my channel that it's kind of weird. It started since like the beginning of 2026, where it would be like 2-3 weeks, you know, engagement the same, you know, I could post videos, post shorts, everything's all good. Then like all of a sudden for 2 weeks straight, man, engagement cut down by at least 90%. At this point, and it's sad, but I'm so used to it. It's like, it happens so much. Like the first time I was tripping, but now it's just like, oh, well, I'll just wait it through. It was 2 weeks last time. Hopefully it ain't a month this time, but we'll see, guys. We'll see. Like I said, I mean, I've literally talked to YouTube. I've tried everything on that note. It's just something that just happens. But well, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe there is a permanent fix to it that I just ain't figure out yet. So I don't know. I ain't gonna lie. I might just have to try what you're saying, bro.
Conservative. He would always come back and support.
Yo, that is true though. The algorithm do change 3 to 4 times a year. YouTube monetization policies change, boy, probably every month. Like you see the whole mass demonetization they was doing to people. So I mean, yeah, it'd be like that. You really don't know with YouTube. That's what I'm saying. That's why I try to drag people over to Kick and Rumble, because their algorithm isn't as complex as YouTube's.
The Republicans.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
And he would eviscerate them. I mean, he would just like take them down, but he'd always come back and support them. And so he would be totally against George H.W. Bush in 92 because he's furious about the Persian Gulf War, although he never really made that as central of an issue as I think he should have. But, you know, who am I to pick on a great man like that? But then he'd come back and he'd primary him. But then he'd lose and he'd come back and you get that great famous culture war speech from Pat Buchanan at the RNC, which is, by the way, anyone should go listen to that speech. So beautifully done. I really admire great speech writing. He was a great speech writer. But anyway, but that speech, the context of it is that he's at the RNC to bring the Buchanan, what did they call it? The Buchanan Brigade back into the Republican Party. And he would make arguments like, hey, look, I mean, look, we feel how we feel. We disagree on all these issues, but whose Supreme Court justice picks are you going to like more? George H.W. Bush or Bill Clinton? On environmentalism, he's better. On tax policy, he's better. On all these. And like, now I tend to kind of disagree with that. And I loved Ron Paul. Ron Paul would never come back and endorse the candidate. But, you know, the thing is that in 1992, I can understand Pat Buchanan's argument, because if you have a generally healthy country, and we could get into debating whether we were generally healthy or not, but compared to today, we were a much healthier country, you know, much less divisive politically. The demographics were, you know, what traditional American demographics had been for most of the time, which, you know, are conducive to less cultural divides, let's say. we were not $40 trillion in debt. We were not like a failing empire. There were things were, and in a healthy society, it kind of does make sense to go, look, I know there's a wish list of what we want, but let's go for better rather than worse. Yeah. Again, when you have stage 4 cancer and you're terminally ill, that's like when you go like, no, if we just get what is maybe slightly better, we die. Like this nation dies if we do that. So I guess part of it is that we're just arguing that like, no, the situation is actually that dire right now that we have to go for something better than this.
Well, that's the nail on the head. And, I would even say something more controversial, which is, and no one's going to like this.
More controversial than me?
Well, controversial for people that like us, for the fans, but they need to hear this. I respect Pat Buchanan. He's brilliant. Obviously, off the charts, brilliant, great writer. Red-pilled me with Death of the West and
great book.
Everything. But he's a loser. And I don't say that to be nasty, but he lost. He lost 3 times, right? He lost in 92, 96, lost for reform in 2000. And, it's funny.
I'm weak. Yeah, do be the guys with the best politics, bro, that be catching the most L's. I mean, that's a sad reality of politics. The guys with the best ideas for America are usually the ones that never get to be president or probably even get to hold office anywhere.
Sam Francis, who was a friend of his, he wrote an article about his endorsement of Bush in 92 and said that was Buchanan's biggest mistake.
I've never read that. Oh,
that's very interesting. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, please do.
But he wrote it at the time and said that's Buchanan's mistake, is that he always comes back to support the GOP. Why? You're at war with them. They're the enemy. They're the problem. And it's because he is the congenital conservative. And by conservative, I don't mean right wing. It's this risk aversion. He's not revolutionary.
No.
He's a reformer. And so in the end, they will always come back to the vomit. The dog will always come back to eat its vomit. They will always come back to endorse the conservative. And I think, by the way, that's now why there's people are becoming more comfortable with Pat Buchanan, because 20 years ago, he was kicked off MSNBC for suicide of a superpower, which he was going to call The Death of Whitey. That was actually the original title.
Is that true?
Yes.
No.
Sam Francis says this.
So, is that true? So there was a chapter in the book called like The End of White America. It was like close to that.
Yes.
One of the chapters. Great book, by the way. Suicide of a Superpower. Highly recommend it.
But that was going to be the title. And point being is he was super controversial back then. Shapiro called him a Nazi in 2016. He's alt-right, whatever. Now, I feel like people are coming around to his legacy. So some of these heritage.
It's crazy. And the black intellectuals came up, with our own term for it. We called it white fragility. So pretty much it was just like, that pretty much white people pretty much, fearing being replaced and all this good stuff. We called that white fragility. And you know what? I think that was kind of like a kind of fucked up way of putting their concerns out there. It's like, they are just afraid of being replaced. Yeah, because it's white fragility. I mean, yeah, but wouldn't you be afraid of being replaced? Wouldn't you call it black fragility if the same thing was happening to us? So, I mean, they have a valid argument, and it is happening to them, and they didn't vote for this. It's kind of being forced upon them. So they have real arguments and a real concern.
Americans, pro-Trump people, they're embracing him. But why? Because he lost. And when you lose, you become inert. You're no longer threatening. And so I love Pat Buchanan. However, Francis also wrote a book called Beautiful Losers about the conservatives, and basically saying that conservatives are so principled, but they lose all the time. Like, we're losing the culture war. We're losing the immigration war. And they would rather lose as the civil, principled, whatever you want to say about them, these kind of like Rockefeller Republicans, and actually get dirty and fight and win. And in the end, is it not the paleocons that were the beautiful losers? Is it not those people that, they kind of went down without a huge, ugly fight? And I think about what is different between Buchanan and Trump. In 2016, when Trump was running in the primary, they said, will you endorse the eventual nominee if you don't get it? And Trump said, no. He said, I have a lot of leverage. He said, so I'd like to run as the Republican, but if I can't have the nomination, then maybe I'll run independent. And they said, well, Hillary Clinton will surely win. And he said, well, yeah, then elect me as the Republican. Otherwise, I'll tank the whole thing. And to me, that's like, and I told them that actually at the dinner. I said, that is when you were at your apex, because you were playing to win. Yeah. That's when I knew you were serious. You weren't just going to say, well, if I win, I win. If I don't, I guess we'll just have Republicans. It's like that burn the boats mentality. That's what we as the base need to develop that kind of consciousness or that leadership.
No, I get what you're saying. You know, part of the, okay, I'm sorry to keep picking on Steven Crowder. It's nothing against Steven Crowder. It's just that literally this is what I'm thinking of when you say this. But so when I was debating Steven Crowder, he was very upset that I had called for Trump's impeachment. I had called for Trump's impeachment because of the 12-day war. Because, you know, to me, I'm like, yeah, you just launched an illegal war, and this is what we all voted against. And yeah, I'm for. Now, Crowder starts then getting into this argument. He's like, but if we impeached Donald Trump, then Nancy Pelosi has control. And I was like, well, first off, that would put JD Vance in as president.
Right.
But then at a certain point, I went, Stephen, when I say we should impeach Donald Trump, you realize I'm not a congressman who's introducing articles of impeachment. I have there's no point that I believe this is going to result in this process and then the benefit of that process. Obviously, all I'm saying is like, I publicly support.
I'm not gonna lie though, the way Steven was acting over, you know, Dave Smith calling for Trump's impeachment, you know, from the 12-day war for bombing Iran. Oh my goodness, bro. The man was low-key in his feelings. He's like, how dare he call for Donald Trump's impeachment? How dare he even say such a thing? I'm just like, all right, bro. Like, is it really that serious? We hear Dems call for Donald Trump's impeachment all day. I thought you'd be immune.
Donald Trump, and now I am saying in the loudest possible language that I'm out. I'm done. And I do think there's part of my thinking there was along the lines of what you're saying, where it's like, no, look, dude, this only works if there's like a profit and loss system.
Right.
Like there has to be like, okay, you promise me no new wars, I publicly support you. You launch a new war, I publicly not just like don't support you, but like fuck you, die a million deaths, you'll never get my support again. Because otherwise, like, I don't know, there's just got to be some type of incentive for like, if you want to come do this. I don't know, we don't have much, but the one thing we do have is that we can very publicly say, no, Vance, Rubio, none of you are getting this coalition. And therefore, at least there's some political incentive of like, someone want to come pick up this coalition or not. I do agree with you that, or at least I agree, you know, I don't think Patrick Buchanan's a loser, but politically, I get your point. He did lose. Mm-hmm. I think that there's something, especially now when supermajorities of the American people are against this war. Supermajorities of the American people are against Biden's immigration policy. You know, supermajorities are against the woke trans insane shit. Supermajorities think that inflation is the number one issue. When you have that type of dynamic, we should be playing to win. Like, right. Why can't we win this country? You know what I mean? Like, if there was an open primary right now, and don't get me wrong, I want to be honest about this. If someone were to run on your most radical views or my most radical views, they probably could not win with that.
Right.
But if there was like open primaries on the Democrat and Republican side right now, and someone were to run on a full separation of Israel and America, like we're treating it like church and state, a full separation of Israel and America, dissolving the Israel lobby entirely. If they were to run on closing the border and an immigration moratorium, if they were to run on, fiscal sanity, no new wars, like there are major pieces here that could absolutely be a winning coalition in this country. That was not the case when Pat Buchanan was running. That wasn't the case when Ron Paul was running for president. And so like, we do live in a new dynamic with new realities. And I agree with you. I think we shouldn't be, we shouldn't concede that, well, if it's a little bit better than the Democrats, then we support it. And we shouldn't concede that, like, hey, you go out there and you completely lose, but you were politically noble and you made some good points and that's enough. Because at the end of the day, none of that saves the country.
Right. Well, and think about it. What if Buchanan had not endorsed George Bush? He would have lost anyway. And what would have been the lesson in 92? It's like, maybe we should have been more conservative. Maybe in 96, we run somebody that gets the Buchanan brigades.
Well, by the way, just to even strengthen your point here, right? Because when he's giving the culture war speech at the RNC in 92, he's already lost. George H.W. Bush goes on to lose to Bill Clinton anyway.
Exactly.
So the Buchanan brigade did not make the difference, but if he had withheld that, it may have been seen as maybe that would have made the difference.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It would have been ambiguous. And more to the point, we have to think about those second and third order consequences. People say, well, what if a Democrat wins? Yeah, what if? What you're talking about is moral hazard, which is if there's no consequences for your actions, then they will get away with anything. And I said this to Crowder.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, we're in a war with Iran. And
And also, like I said, I don't think we should give any group that type of power where they can just feel like they can do whatever they want. And all they got to do is say, well, oh, what, the Democrats? Oh, we're just going to go along with whatever we're just going to go along with whatever they say or do. I mean, that's a very toxic relationship to be in. I mean, with a person or a group, especially a political group where they're pretty much saying that, oh, well, we may not have done anything that you wanted, but what, you're going to vote Democrat and let them ruin the country and let them trans your kid? It's like, no, but I'm be real with you. I don't think I'm voting for you guys again. So that's just the reality of the situation here is that, well, they can't really give us what we want. So they want to fear monger on the Dems. And I'm sorry, but that just cannot be your argument. I say the same thing to the Dems. Your argument just can't be but Trump, but fuck Donald Trump. So, like MAGA, your argument can't be but fuck the Dems. I mean, you actually got to give us something here.
At what point will you stop supporting Trump? What would he have to do to lose your support? Because if you're willing to tolerate that, you'll tolerate anything. And if you tolerate anything, you will be forced to tolerate anything. That's sort of where we are. And so it's important to now and again, and like I said this to Crowder, like, I wouldn't want a Democrat to become the president because I think that's really bad for everybody. But where you can and where it makes sense, you have to impose some kind of a cost, just so you tell them, like, we will not put up with this. We will not tolerate it. And I always tell people, that's just playing both sides. That's just basic game theory. And by the way, everybody else does it. The donors do it in particular. How many of these pro-Israel people were lifelong Democrats until October 7th? And then they threw their weight around behind the Republicans to get concessions. Same thing with little tech. Elon Musk. Was he ever a Republican up until a few years ago when he started getting heat from the Biden DOJ and getting all these problems? No. So
Tulsi, Bobby. Yeah,
exactly. And they will move their money around whoever is going to help them. The donors do it. By the way, the Israel lobby does it. Ben Shapiro in 2016 said, let Hillary Clinton win. Trump, we can't trust him. He's not a real conservative. So
that is wild. It is kind of crazy how we're coming down on Nick Fuentes when Ben Shapiro literally said, let Hillary Clinton win it. Why? Because, well, he knew that Hillary Clinton was going to get into war with Iran and she was going to do exactly what Israel wanted the United States to do. So, of course, Ben Shapiro had no problem with it. That just makes sense. But it does go to show, it's like they didn't start supporting Trump until they were assured that he would get into a war in the Middle East. Like, everything just lines up.
Just need that kind of leadership and kind of like our mojo as the base to say, we need to be in the driver's seat, not people telling us, oh, we'll get them next time. Oh, well, we built, 36 inches of wall or whatever. That's how we got to think going forward.
Millions of inches.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, a good example of that I don't know if you saw this, but all
right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and tune out on this one. This was just supposed to be a tester live, but hey, y'all start pulling up. So, I got to perform. Appreciate the support, guys. I'm going to head out on this one. Probably going to do one later tonight, depending on how the, depending on how the news works out. Because I felt like I covered everything, honestly. Like during the past 3 little shows I did, I feel like I done damn near covered everything that done went on. So, hey, I'll catch you guys when the news cycle refreshes. This is Set with Set Media. Peace. Yo, this is Set with Set Media, man. I'm here to talk to you about our partner, Kalshi. Kalshi is the largest legal prediction market in the United States with over 1 million users. It's available in all 50 states. They are a real money market. People trading on what they think will happen. You can build a position and trade in and out of almost any prediction you think. Kalshi facilitates trade between people kind of like the stock market. There's no limiting your trades just because you're winning. Kalshi will pay you interest on your position. So if you make a long-term trade, you can earn a return even before the market is resolved. If you want to try out Kalshi, go ahead and give them a try, guys. At my link, kalshi.com/setmedia. Get $20 when you trade 20, so it's 20 for 20, guys. Once again, that's kalshi.com/setmedia. Go ahead and use my code setmedia to get $20 when you trade 20. Let's go ahead and take a look here at Kalshi, because like I said, it is a trading market where you can put in your prediction and you can go ahead and earn interest on that. You can make money off the knowledge that you know. And if you put $20 in, you get $20 back. So, all right, guys, make sure to go check out my guy Kalshi, because you can get in on good trades like who would Trump nominate as Fed chair? Will Ali Khamenei be outed as the supreme leader? And will the U.S. confirm that aliens exist before 2027? So if you want to get in on this action, once again, go ahead and go to my partners at Kalshi. Go ahead and use the link, or you can hit the QR code above and use S.E.T Media to go ahead and get $20 when you trade 20. This is S.E.T from S.E.T Media, and shout out to Kalshi.